How are folks doing this morning? So funny enough, my roommates, my little one is with me this weekend, and my roommates, they've already seen Wicked twice. Yes, twice. The shit just came out Wednesday. So my roommate's son seen Wicked twice. My kid wanted to see Wicked. I'm not a big person of going into the movie theaters. I never really have been. I love a movie, but like I can wait. Like I waited a year and a half to watch Get Out. After it was like came out and everyone was talking about it, I was like, I'll get to it when I get to it, right? That's just me. So Wicked too. My kids are talking about it. I was like, I really don't want to have to go, especially on opening weekend. And then my roommates, I live in a house full of queers. They're like, we'll go again. So they went to an 8:30 showing, y'all. They went to an 8:30 showing. So in the middle of taping this, y'all might hear a doorbell. I mean, the door open and come in. That's the only reason why I'm saying this too. But that has been one of the. I'm gonna get to the show in a second. That's been one of the actual really positive things of living with folks. Like it was a hard decision to make, especially at my age, to like realize I needed help both financially, but also like just communally to like raise a kid in the time of like hellfire and brimstone that's come down to life. But I will tell you, moving in with folks at my age, we're all the same age, 44 now, and all of our birthdays are within 3 weeks of each other, like all four of us, which is kind of crazy. So I move in a house with three Virgos, three gay Virgos, y'all. Three, one, two, and three. Okay. And then there's me. As a late degree Leo. It's been a really opening experience. It's allowed me to to mother the way even more than I want to. It's my kid, like one of my roommates, they get along so well. They both love scents. They both love fairy things. They both love anything that involves childlike wonder and play. And so like they're all at Wicked right now, having a good ass time. And I'm getting to prep how I want to. And I'm here with y'all today. So that's a little kind of info about what's going on with me. But it actually relates a lot to this week's forecast because we've got a bunch of movement in the sky this week, planets that have been retrograde now stationing direct. And so there's been a lot of review and reflection that folks have been asked to do. All of us have been asked to do actually the past few months, and will be continued to do until the new year. But at this time, because a couple of planets are going direct, we're also being asked to reflect upon the lessons that we've learned and where we are right now. And so that's what got me thinking about coming into the house. And when I came into the house in April and really being unsure of what it would mean to be 43 at the time, now 44, living with two others who, as all of us are trying to remake our lives, the reflection has shown me just how much my relationship to ease has been tested. And because of that, I've had to really have some hard conversations with myself about the kind of life that I want to live. And if I say I want to live a life of ease, yet every time ease is presented to me, I double down in trying to do everything myself, right? There's a way that this past few months has been a strong mirror into having to examine, do I really want the things I say I want, right? Or am I committed to doing the same shit over and over again in a different font? So let's get into it, y'all. That actually comes right beautifully into what we're going to talk about today. So welcome, y'all. We got two planets going direct this week in the element of water. And with that grand water trine in effect between Saturn and Jupiter and the various inner planets that have transitioned through Scorpio, this cold Scorpio season, we have had our memories stirred as water holds stories of times before that must be remembered in the present by those who are embodied and can hold and tell these tales. So, what has surfaced for you during this retrograde season? And what do you do then with those rememberings? Because reclamation is here. And as Saturn starts to make the journey to Aries and Mercury will go back into Sagittarius, the knowledge from those memories will need to be turned into some kind of action. So then what actions have your memories also been whispering for you to enact? This is the weekly forecast from November 23rd to 29th. The crone and trickster planets of Saturn and Mercury grow direct. So what have your memories been saying to you? Welcome back to Yapping with the Stars, y'all, the show where I talk about life and spirit with the help of the planets, stars, and zodiacs, and a little bit of common sense thrown in there as well. Now, I'm your host and guide, Nicole Rouse, a storyteller who comes from a line of storytellers who weave and tell stories in many different ways. And here I work with astrology and ethnography to explore the stories of what it means for us to be human. Because right now, the present is up for grabs. So, who is leading the stories that will bring us into our futures? Now, every Sunday, we check into the chaos that we call society, and we're going to ask two questions. What's the cosmos showing us this week? And what are we being called to move, create, burn, build, and or reflect upon? We're going to talk about reflections a lot tonight, y'all, or today. It's actually not tonight, it's today. There's a lot about reflections and memories today. And I want to talk about, actually, before we get into anything, I just finished this week a bunch of things. I had the second Queering Chaos conversation at Dorothy downstairs, and it went really well. We were talking about queering family and community, and it was a beautiful conversation. The audience came out, and we had a great engagement. But the day before then, I actually had booked a session with Tristan, tuning with Tristan. She was on the first panel with queering spirit and spirituality. She's a body worker, and my body needs working, y'all. I knew my body needed working. I've had a bunch of readings from different readers that I go to that have all said the same thing, that I have to take care of the body and really, work the body some more. So I said, let me go ahead and book with Tristan. And so I booked with Tristan, and I went with her the day before to do a 90-minute kind of body work session. Y'all, when I say that woman tuned the shit out of me. There were things I didn't know were sore that were like, bitch, we've been here and been sore. There was one point, so I knew I had back issues. I've had back issues. And so I had a lot of soreness in my upper back, especially. And I go to the chiropractor to get chiropractic care as well. But my chiro was saying you really do need to get a massage because my muscles are so tight from old injuries and stuff. And so when I was telling her about this, and she was like, well, there's a habit of people will tend to release with me. So you may cry, you may laugh, she's like, shit, somebody even had an orgasm once. It wasn't even sexual. It was more about a release, right? So if you need me to leave the room, I can. I'm happy to stay if that happens. And I said, sure. That's fine. Y'all, she got into my left shoulder and she hit a spot. And the minute she hit that goddamn spot, it was like a wave of both emotion and memories came at once. And I just wailed. Like snot coming down, crying. I'm like, I didn't know this was even in me, like it's just everything. And she's like, oh yeah, I feel that. And she goes, okay, one more time. And she gets in there and I'm like, wow, like everything. Again, memories coming back, shit's coming out. I'm like, I didn't realize I was this angry as I'm crying and shit, And then she goes, well, do you want me to leave? And I looked at her, I was like, no, you got to get the rest of this shit out of me. You ain't going nowhere. You don't get to open it up and then say you need some time. No, we're going to get it through. So long story short, she would work my body. And when she got to my left hip, there was this utter release of just like joy. And she felt it. I felt it. It was like this woo, And so all that to say, that was a really interesting experience that helped me get to the bottom of some things, right? I'm a Scorpio rising, and I talk about this a lot with all of us, that we're in this water trine right now between Jupiter that is in Cancer, Saturn that is in Pisces, and then the inner planets that have been transitioning through Scorpio, the Scorpio season. And last week we were in this full moon, right? This full moon in Scorpio that just passed this Thursday. So we were getting up to that. So the sun was getting closer. We already had Mars go through previously. We've already had Mercury go through, and now it came back because Mercury met that full moon in Scorpio on Thursday, having a conversation with this water trine. And so on Monday, when I was getting this body release and all these memories came up, right? It was a lot of memories. And that's what led to the wailing. Like, I mean, not going to lie, there was a lot of tension in there. So it didn't necessarily hurt. It was more really about a release. And so she did her job because what she was doing was allowing the energy to flow. And there's a way that when we don't allow ourselves to fully feel, when we bottle it up and we stop ourselves, when we hold on to stuff, right? It really does get into the body, and the body does hold on. It tries to protect itself, tries to protect us by wrapping itself around it, right? But then the more you wrap those emotions around and don't allow them to release, it starts to then clog up, right? And as she was working my back, but my shoulders kept going down, right? And I realized that, God, there was so much tension, so much emotion, so much of other people's stories I was holding in my back. And without a release, without the ability to either cry, laugh, have sex, whatever, or have somebody help work it through, it was just being stuck. And so as she was going through and releasing, it was these memories, and these memories, a lot of them stuck in the left side. And the left side, if you believe and understand like the different hemispheres of the body, they say the right side is the more masculine of us, the left side is more the feminine. And I've always had right side issues. I have a right side injury. Funny enough, that comes from my dad having polio. And before antibiotics came out, I talked about this before, and him having polio before antibiotics and having children after, all of us have had some kind of impact from that polio. So, and so then in my right side, I've had an injury in the hip area. My sister has had this. My brothers have had this. It's literally a family trait. And so it's funny. I understood that as the masculine side from the dad, but I didn't really focus on my left side a lot, right? It was always my right. So as she was going in there and these memories were coming out, a lot of the memories that were coming out were of the times that I took on other people's shit. Like I remember being at Brown, and I've talked about this, but I don't talk about it. But when I got protested, and it was 9 months of just straight hell, and me not saying anything, me thinking that it was my responsibility to just take it, and I literally bit my tongue. I swallowed my own story, and those memories as she was getting in there came out. And then I went back to Beloit and realizing I don't talk about Beloit at all when I worked there. That was almost 5 years. And the absolute heartache and heartbreak of having people who at one point were at my table, literally, and then the next point had taken ideas, taken concepts, gotten their thing, and then literally left me to dry. And I just ate that too, thinking, who am I to, basically stand up and say something, because I don't want to be the one to cause even more strife, right? And then going deeper, so more shit just comes out. And I think about that in the quote unquote feminine side, right? The left side, the receiving side. And that was when it hit me. Oh, do I know how to receive? Right? If I'm used to receiving being this idea of me holding, and now this shit's being released, and now I'm realizing I talk about anger, I work with anger, and I thought I got to the anger, but then here's the anger still sitting in the body, sitting in the shoulder, right? Sitting in this kind of embodiment that requires a release, that requires an ability to get down to the truths, to these kind of taboo hidden things that will be disruptive. That, yes, when you speak truths in spaces that don't know how to hold it, your presence alone, let alone what's going to come out of that presence, will disrupt. If that is what is understood to be expected, but that is what is also needed, then where does it mean then to embody the courage you say you want to have? And that's what was coming out with this body working, right? And of course, I'm a dork. I was thinking about the astrology after this. And coming into the next day, I had the queer and chaos conversation, and we talked about family and community. And a lot of that was getting to the bottom, right? Getting to some truths. A lot of truths came out at that panel, creating a container, a space in which different community gatherers who have been gathering community together in various ways amongst the three of them over 20 years apiece, right? In different ways, had them having the space to talk about both the joys and the beauty of that, but also the challenges of that, the contradictions of that, the wanting to create these communities that are queer in nature by understanding the need to care for one another and be with one another, right? But at the same time, we don't know how to care for one another. So we believe that uncomfortability requires somebody else ensuring that we're comfortable, but we don't put any reciprocity at the table. Now we're having a deeper conversation about what does it mean to actually create communities of care when we don't know how to care. If we can have that conversation, get to the truth of the matter, then we can create the families that will then get us to the communities, right? So the next day, I'm realizing there's even more truths being unearthed in a community space, that those who needed to be there were there, and the space felt full and felt full of care. And then afterwards, there was an incident in which I realized that we're still grappling with what care means. And then later in the week, Thursday hit, and that's full moon. And that full moon last week, y'all, I want you to reflect what the hell came up for you? What came up to the surface that was kind of, excuse me, slowly emerging last week, starting on that Monday and really coming up, and on Thursday, that new moon, that dark moon, but it's Scorpio, so Scorpio understands the darkness. What was kind of coming up that required you to have to sit within some darkness, some deep shadows, some murky waters that was uncovering truths that you really couldn't remove yourself from if you wanted to plant a new seed? Because on Thursday something hit me hard. And what hit me hard on Thursday was I had been talking about, and I've been talking about with my spirits, with my friends, with myself, that I want to enter into the next phase of my life with ease. All I've known my whole life is fight, is having to quote unquote work hard, seeing my mother going to work, literally bleeding after having her seventh kid, right? Going to work, always putting work above even her own body. Therefore, she put work above her family, even though saying that work was for the family, yet she was never a part of the family. So what is it all for, right? There's this kind of way that when we can reflect upon how we have been groomed to see ourselves, right, to enter into society, even when we think that we're not trying to be like our parents, we end up being just like our parents. Whoo, I was like, God damn, I'm my mama. That's what came up to me on Thursday. I am my mother. I come from my mother, like we all do, right? Whoever birthed you. But then that was how she knew how to mother. And she didn't know ease. And so I kept telling myself, I've been asking for it. I've been laying offerings down, right? I will do a ritual once I get into that phase. And I'm saying that I want to leave. I'm 44 now. I want to live the next 40 plus years of my life. I know hardship. I know heartache. I know, hard work. I know workaholism. I want to be able to transmute all of that and go into ease and go into flow and be more receptive, right? Allow creativity to feed, right, and bring those dreams into reality. That sounds great, but then on Thursday, the dark Scorpion waters, right, having a conversation with Saturn that was retrograde in Pisces. So the spirit, the collective, the delusions and illusions that are now being revealed by the crone, that's having a conversation with the granddad, who has also reflecting upon his concept of family and care. And that's hitting my first and fifth and ninth house. Look at your placements of where your water signs are so you can see where this story is playing out for you and what locations. I had to realize in the first house of Scorpio, right, that my belief systems, that ninth house that stem from childhood about love and ease, had me understanding that I was lying to myself. Because even every time that I said I wanted ease, all I knew how to do was double down and work. All I know how to do is double down and still feeling like this is easeful, but in actuality, I'm still showing up in a way in which I feel that I have to always be on, be ready, not having to ask for help. And so this new moon was revealing some truths. Revealing some truths about, I say I want this, but could I actually hold it? Right? And then when I kept thinking more and more about that, then I had to confront the also fact that Mercury was conjunct, retrograding. I never spoke my own truths, though, about what happened to me in higher ed, ninth house, that heavily impacted my fifth house of pleasure and creativity and children and childlike wonder and all of those things. It's also the house of publishing. What does it look like for me to own that story and actually speak it out, realizing that it will be disruptive, but we're living in disruptive times. So what does it look like to work with that chaos? So for you all, what last week maybe came up to the surface that was a harsh truth, that we had you look at something that was a bit taboo, even for you, that now is having you ask some questions about what you're willing to do, right? What you're willing to actually go to bat for, and not in this kind of hard pushing, aggressive, confrontational way. This is water. This is water. This is flow. This is a different way to strategize. Scorpio being ruled by Mars, Mars being the planet of the war, right? The planet of strategy. If we remember, the planets are the personalities, y'all, and the signs are how they express those themselves, right? The signs themselves are not personality. I just taught this class in Astrology 101 under Big List Conjure. We have to remember, planets tell us the personalities, the signs tell us how they will enact, the costumes they put on. So in Scorpios, the strategy is not necessarily confrontational, and the Scorpio is getting to the truth of something, getting to the secrets, collecting, the collector and holder of secrets. But here's the thing about Scorpio, you can't just keep holding on to it. There must be a release somewhere. The more you hold other people's shit, the more you hold other people's secrets and lies, the more you, and without any kind of reprieve, without any knowing of what you're going to do with it, right? That is when you will actually sting yourself, because you're holding on to so much without making space that you lose yourself. This is why the Scorpio, to me, will easily meld with somebody else, right? We will easily flow into somebody else's shit because we will go into there not realizing we're not supposed to hold on to it. So what have you been holding on to that now must be released, that must be expressed? Mercury was retrograde right next to this. That must be expressed for those new seeds to be planted. And so I had to express some shit to myself, right? But also get some shit off my chest. And in this kind of expression, the memories, right? The memories start to come. The memories come up. We are in water right now, y'all. What are the memories that are coming up for you that are asking you to reflect upon them and view them from a different lens, a different perspective? I've been talking about this for a few weeks now, and it really is getting louder in the sky. This week, we have the sun that is already now in Sag. So we're moving out of Scorpio season being the kind of focus. Now we're moving into Sagittarius. And who is Sag? Well, Sag is the adventurer. Sag is the way that Jupiter expresses itself when it wants to go have a good time, when it wants to enact that good time, being in fire, the masculine, the one that expresses itself through travel, through play, through kind of childlike things, but childlike things in terms of curiosity, right? There's a curiosity to Sag. It's also about the beliefs you have, right? I always tell a Sag rising, you have to experience things. And those experiences then have to be converted into wisdom if they're going to do anything for you. Otherwise, you just keep chasing a kind of fix. And this is why Sag can do into addiction, because it's also ruled by Jupiter, that is ruled by Pisces. So when you think about the signs as, again, the costumes that the planet puts on, but it will be influencing each other in some way, then it gives you a kind of bigger picture to play in. So the sun is now in Sag. What are the beliefs that are being shown to you? Right? What are the beliefs that about your understanding of life, right? What are the lessons that have been learned in this retrograde season that now you must take and own itself? You must own yourself. So the Sag season is really going to be about the belief systems we have and our responsibilities to them. Because what we're having now on Monday is that we're getting this, Venus is starting to have a conversation with this trine. So Jupiter is retrograded in Cancer right now, y'all. We've got Saturn that is retrograde in Pisces. And we've already had the sun pass through this trine. We've had Mercury pass through this trine. Like I said, we've had Mars. Lilith is still hanging out there. So the kind of primal, deep, the kind of things that are basically, there's a lot of facing the patriarch as well, and the patriarchy, both within you and also within society, and the way that has shaped our understandings of memories, memory making, and how we even do remember and reclaim those memories of who we remember and why. And now we're going to have Venus meeting. So this week we've got Venus having a conversation with this water trine, and Mercury is still retrograde. So first, Mercury and Venus will meet. Excuse me. Don't be surprised if you got a relationship pop up. Somebody, there might be a this actually can be exes popping up randomly, or people from the past, relationships from the past, in which maybe there was something that was not said, something that was hidden that comes to the surface again. Now, because it's Venus, y'all, it doesn't always mean romantic. This could also mean a friendship, a business, any kind of one-on-one relationship, right? There is a way with Scorpio, but it could be something that was hidden. And so, or even a memory that comes up about a relationship, about a transaction, about your understanding of love and justice and how all those things kind of interact. And as we're having this kind of conversation and Venus makes its way through this water trine, at the end of the week, Saturn is going to go direct. So we got Saturn going direct, and then 2 days later, we've got Mercury going direct. So right now, we're having a lot of reflections upon the ways relationships have shaped our understandings, okay, of our beliefs, about the collective, and then about the family, and the ways that the family and the collective have shaped our understandings of relationships, and then how that impacts our understandings of money. I've been talking about this for a while, and this has been a long-standing conversations as well. We're having to face these kind of harsh truths, Scorpio revealing, memories coming to the surface, that what we've been fed and told. Neptune is still retrograde, 29 degrees in Pisces. That is also conversing with Uranus, retrograde in Taurus, 29 degrees, right? So we're at these critical degrees of reflection and review structurally about the stories that have told us that rugged individualism, that this idea of a hierarchical system, that the patriarch leading down, all of these ideas of family and society are somehow what sets the economy and goes forward. And we're seeing that that's not actually true. So in your own lives, what are the stories that are breaking down around your understandings of relationships, love, and money? And how is that impacting then your understanding of what you want to see going forward in those areas? And again, look at your chart, look at the different water houses to see exactly where that is. But overall, we're all having to examine our relationship to our sense of selves, our emotions, love, and how that impacts then money. This is all a remaking, y'all. This is world building. We are being asked to build new worlds. And how do we build new worlds? We can only build new worlds when we understand fully the worlds that we are inhabiting right now. And the way we believe the worlds we're inhabiting right now is inhabiting our bodies so that we actually believe the goddamn realities that we are in. And again, I keep saying realities are colliding in this retrograde season with this water trine holding strong, with Jupiter and Saturn leading the foundations of it, the parents of the zodiac, right? This long-standing conversation that we are being asked to kind of go into the body with, because our bodies are made up 70% of water. You can't be and flow through water unless you're actually in the body and in the waters, so that you're actually navigating these waters. And since we're in a time of chaos, right, the water trine is reminding us that we become the stability. We have to become the foundation to be able to flow through, so that we can figure out what's actually going on, hold on to those truths as a way to build new worlds, create new worlds. So in this retrograde season that is having us go through water one last time, and Earth with Uranus and Taurus, right? This is the last time we're going to be having this major water energy. We are going next year into fire and air. I'm going to talk about next year a bit more in the next week overall. But this shift in elements, y'all, in order for us to handle fire and air, we have to be grounded in water and earth. We have to be grounded in the body to be able to understand that our feet have to be our stability, even as the foundation is moving, because this foundation is always moving somewhere. So that was kind of the revelations that were happening last week, and got me really thinking a lot about then what does it mean to bring truths into the public, right? How do we allow ourselves to speak truthfully in the public so that the memories that we are not only surfacing for us but can surface collectively can be spaces and places that can help us in this world building, right? How do we create these containers where vulnerability has a seat at the table? And that vulnerability, because it's also bringing truth, allows us to then speak truths to one another. The truths that need to come to the surface, that must be grappled with, that must be felt, that must be understood, that uncomfortability has to be part of world building because we can't face reality, the truths of reality, until we face the uncomfortability, till we understand the differences in uncomfortability, right? Till we understand the logics of our body. We have to be able to do that. That's a big part of this water trine, a big part of this retrograde season for me that is getting really loud right now. Because when we move into fire and air next year, it's go. It is reaction. But you cannot just be reacting. It has to have a strategy aligned with it. So, what is the strategy? Well, you have to strategize not just with the mind, because the mind is what has been conditioned through the project of the colonial. You have to come into and take back what they stole in order to take the mind to begin with, which is the body. So this is why I'm doing the queer and chaos conversations, y'all, right? Like it's to create containers, to create these smaller containers and spaces that can hold these conversations, that can hold people who have been a part of different kind of iterations of the topics at hand in their lives, and then come together and bring those truths, bring those stories, have them sit together literally and spin that air together, and have folks realize, one, you're not alone, and two, we have to face uncomfortability so that we can actually get to the world building that we say we want. So this third conversation I'm going to have in December is going to be about queering pleasure, play, and taboo things. And I'm bringing together, it's going to be kind of a cool conversation. I'm bringing together a couple who host play parties and that make space for those who are tend to be marginalized in the kink community. Also, a Black queer woman who works with psychedelics, and she does psychedelic education in the community, and also is works with both marijuana and with shrooms. And then a mom and child duo who is both a Brua Iha, and their eldest child also does drag. So once a month, they have witchoramas in the city in which they bring community together, and they have various bruja and other kind of spiritualist vendors, and then they have a drag show. And it was a space that Erica made with her husband for their child because they wanted to do drag. They were 18. There was no space for them. The Erica had a space with the kind of vendors and the show she was doing. She made the space open for her child to express themselves, and that led to now a monthly drag show, and they have their own performance company as well. So what does it look like, right, when we actually make space for other people's stories? When we take the things that society tells us is taboo, therefore shameful, and reveal them to be nothing more than exploration. When we don't shame desire, especially when you are younger, when we allow curiosity and play to sit at the table, then, right, we can create these spaces that we never imagined to be, that are actually exactly what the community needs, right? Who would have thought that, bringing together spiritualists of all kinds of different modalities, from readers to body workers to astrologers to folks who make their own kind of crafts, to also bringing together queer kids who want to learn drag. Who would have thought those two things together is exactly what a community needed to be able to come together monthly, meet people, know people, and be able to show up for one another, right? Like that's what happens when we allow ourselves to queer our understandings of what is supposedly sacred in a society, right? When we allow ourselves to question, when we allow ourselves to be embodied, allow those feelings and emotions to come up and be able to express them somewhere, right? What if we weren't afraid to express ourselves to the first kind of institution we are all born into, which is the family? I think about that a lot without, and I had to think about that a lot without being, without getting too much in my feelings, right? We're talking about feelings, but I can get in them feelings because for me, getting in that feeling starts to be a lot of self blame. Like, what could I have done? What did I do? That doesn't help at all, right? But I do think a lot about what would have been like if I was able to express myself fully as a kid with my family, that I was able to come out, right? I do think a lot of times when I go back into the memory of the kind of coming out story for me, it's taking me not to that moment 4 years ago now. It's taking me back to my childhood. I'm realizing I really do think I knew I was gay as a kid. Somewhere I knew I was different. And I do think there was some way I did know. But because life was so some fucked up shit and it was violent for all kinds of ways and I'd already been violated, I think part of me, again, the Scorpio that was trying to protect myself, I just hid that from myself, right? We can really lie to ourselves in so much powerful ways. The Neptune, wherever your Neptune is, will tell you where you can really be the best storyteller for yourself, both positively and negatively. So find Neptune in your chart. That's a generational planet, yes, but it also, the house it's in can tell you where you can weave a tale and story. Mine's in Sagittarius in the second house. Baby, I can tell a story. I can tell a story to myself about value and worth. Okay. That is rooted Sagittarius. So I look to where Jupiter is. Jupiter's in my 12th house. That is heavily rooted in some 12th house shit and escapism, so that I was able to navigate, right? And so when I realized that those were stories that I told myself, right, as protection, but now that there's a new light, there's a new way that I am here, what are the new stories that we can tell? Stories are powerful. Stories are powerful, y'all. That is why we are being asked to reflect and review upon our emotions so that they don't run us. Our emotions are the other logic that is trying to talk to us, to get us to root in a different way, a different knowing, a different sight. And if you can bring the logic, the mind's logic, that kind of sight in a conversation with the body's knowledge, the body's sight, and those two things come together, that's bringing your Mercury together fully. Mercury is a dualistic planet, right? Mercury is both, like all the planets, Gemini and Virgo, but it loves Virgo. It loves Virgo because it's both chills there and it's exalted there. So if Mercury loves the body, why don't we love our bodies? If the planet of communication says, baby, you got to double down in the body, what does your body say to you? Right? And right now, the South Node's in Virgo. So then what is the body saying to you? How do you listen to the body? The emotions. This water trine is getting us to figure out what our body is saying to us. So put this in conversation, that water trine, y'all. The water houses in your chart, which is going to be Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, right? Put that in a conversation with where your Virgo house is, right? Because wherever that Virgo house is, that's where you are being asked to release. There is a release happening there, especially in that stomach, in that body. So let's go back to this trine and this conversation that's coming up. So when we bring these kind of conversations up, right, and we're being asked to tell these new stories, the way you tell a new story, right, is by creating containers that allow you to play within them. So this is why I'm creating these containers so that we can allow ourselves to speak truths to one another. So again, if we can speak truths to one another, if we can allow ourselves to have our bodies come to the conversation and sit in our hopes, desires, and wants and be truthful about that, right? Then that allows the things that we are told to be taboo to be questioned, right? And it's not to make everything. I'm talking about how we are turning more conservative as a society because we don't allow ourselves any spaces to actually have the body speak. Everything about the body is being told to be smaller, to be more demure, to be more rigid, to be placed in more boxes. But the cosmos is saying, no, baby, we're gonna put you in water. We are not only gonna put you in water, we're gonna put you in a long water trine with the parents of the zodiac saying, I don't care what the state is telling you, what these governance structures are telling you, what there's another way forward. And another way forward is asking yourself then, What are the foundations of the stories and what are the foundations of the family that have been hidden from you that now are being revealed to the surface, that are needing to reveal some truths to yourselves? And the only way you can get that truth to the self is if you make space in the body. So Virgo, South Node, right? Because it's night, Pisces, North Node, we're still being asked to go into water. We're being asked to bring the body, right? We're being asked to bring the mundane into the sacred, Pisces, right? And those nodes meeting. It's not about releasing fully and forgetting the South Node to go into the North Node. That is no balance there, right? There's no balance there. You have to have a logic, y'all. It's meeting the head and tail of the dragon together, making the body come together with the spirit. We're so disconnected. The bodies are disconnected from the spirits. You have no idea how many people will come to me and I can just feel it or even see it. Your spirit is over here. It's like you're here, the vessel's here, your body's here, but your spirit's over here, not even up here, to the side and over here, just kind of lingering. Right? We talk about air signs a lot doing this, but it's a lot of folks. It's a lot of folks. If you have a lot of air in your chart, there is a way that air, remind yourself that air still has duality to it. So air signs then need to always remember to feel their feet as well, so that you're not constantly here. But we all are doing this. We're also disconnected, right? So what does it mean? Well, you got to make space. You got to make space. And how do you make space in that body? Well, again, this is what the cosmos is saying. The parents are saying, well, you're going to have to feel something. So how do you feel? Well, how do you feel? Well, you fucking feel, right? You look at it and you allow yourself to release the crying, the anger, the expression out. This is why Mercury, I think, was hitting up against this new moon in Scorpio, right? The release, the belief systems, the things that now have come up to the surface. And if you're like, well, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. Well, this is then where you have to move. This is movement, right? And it's more than just kind of going for working out. This is where I tell people, play the music and dance, right? Get your hands dirty. Allow your mind to have to focus on something else that requires something tactic, so that then you can do nothing but allow the body to lead. The body has to lead in some way right now, and that's what we're being reminded of right now in this week. So what have we learned? What have we learned in this retrograde season? Because the Saturn goes direct in Pisces and then Mercury goes direct in Scorpio, right? We're being asked to carry those lessons into the next phase, because Saturn is going to make her way over into Aries slowly. So as Saturn goes into Aries next year, all those lessons, all those kind of unearthing of stories, right? All the kind of the things we've learned about the deep waters that have come to light, about spiritual leaders, about the delusions and illusions of society, right? About the ways, what we are addicted to and why. All of those things have to carry us into a new light. Why? Because we're also all being triggered. As all of this is going on, this water trine that's been here for a minute, the same time, Chiron has been squaring Jupiter this whole time. Been squaring it, will continue to square it for a while. And Chiron's also retrograde in Aries. So we're being asked to kind of get into the emotions and bring those up to the surface and grapple with the reality of the taboo things that are being shown to the light, right? Right? Yes. Last week had a lot of rough waters to smooth some corners. I agree with Dina. I completely agree. Right? There was a way that you have to bring these things up. So then we have these Epstein files that came up, right? People want to hear and hear more and see more and get more evidence. But what that really to me is revealing just how much we still require more and more and more and more. Nothing is ever enough to have us understand and believe the kind of sickness that we say we don't want to have, but yet we make the concessions for those same kind of actions in our intimate settings, right? What we are doing is seeing a lot of projection. People want to see more because you don't want to turn that mirror around and seeing how that ability to have an Epstein or a Diddy or a Cosby or R. Kelly, right? Or any of these other type of, or what's that man's name? Zimmer, not what was that director's name? Harvey Weinstein's, right? How those types of archetypes of power are here because we have been groomed to allow those types of power to maintain themselves in the first fucking institution that we are all groomed through, which is the goddamn family. And then after that, the other institutions that we go to kind of form community in a lot of societies, especially the US, that is school and that is the church, right? Rough waters, harsh truths, things coming to the surface in the ways that society deals with taboo things. So how do we queer those things? How do we queer our understandings of pleasure, play, and taboo things so that we are not always making deviant something that actually is just a curiosity, but actually making deviant the things that are deviant by nature because they are rooted in a patriarchal violence, right? This idea of young children and this idea of pedophilia that folks are now weaponizing and throwing, and the children and the children and the children, right? When we are also seeing just how vicious again folks have been when we talk about things like SNAP benefits in the US, when we talk about aid overall, whether it be internal or external, when we talk about needing to support, right, teachers at K through 12 levels, when we talk about this idea of needing things like universal daycare, along with universal health care and just a basic living wage, so that we ensure that people have their foundations, right, their foundations taken care of. We say we care about kids and we bring to justice those who have violated. But when society is the one that has done the biggest violations, then what does this shit mean? Right? How do we understand that these things coming up to the surface is a way for us to review all of it? Because the society that allows those type of archetypes to even get to that ability to have these kind of victims comes through an understanding that structurally this shit has always been screwed. They are just the kind of kind of light, the kind of mirror that shows us the kind of society that we are in. And that's a harsh truth. That's a harsh truth. Right? But it's a needed truth. It's a needed truth to review if we're going to build new worlds, right? If we're going to build new worlds, if we're going to create new societies and structures, we have to sit in the uncomfortability of the waters that we are already in. So Chiron is squaring Jupiter. There is a wounding of the self for a way to heal the self. There is a way that we have to take back the self, y'all. Aries is the head. Aries ruled by Mars, Mars being strategy. What is the strategies that we have been taught that also must be revised? Jupiter, the beliefs via the family. So what are the things we have been taught via the family that must be revised so that we heal the self, come back to, and we can remake the foundations of society that will then not allow for those archetypes to be able to have that kind of power. So all of this to me, especially with Lilith also being in Scorpio still, part of this grand trine, she's been chilling there for a minute, right, in her little degrees, slowly making her way into Sag. All of this is giving us the permission to create a different economic system. But you can only create a different economic system when you also create a different social and political system. So this is giving us permission, if we want to create a so-called matriarchal or a non-hierarchical, whatever we want to call it, right? If we're going to create these worlds, then we have to face the worlds we're in. How do we get here to begin with? Can we tell ourselves those structural and hard truths? So then what did the new moon, even though you're planting new seeds, what did it reveal though? Because Scorpio is the deep waters. It can sit in the darkness to find a light. What came? Because next week we're going to have a full moon in Gemini. Gemini is Mercury ruled, right? It's the air of Mercury. It's the trickster. It's the crossroads here. And we are been in crossroads season, as I've said, right? Mercury retrograde hitting that new moon was also showing us the crossroads we are at. What was the crossroad revealed to you? What did the trickster at the crossroad tell you that you must now face because you were actually tricking yourself, right? So this is the kind of energy that we can really play with. And this, again, why I say we got to create containers. Scattering wild seed, exactly. It's time to get wild. It's time to get wild and do things differently. And so, again, this is why I believe in creating containers, right? Right? This is why I like creating containers. Loving the child within and without is resistance. It really is, Quinn. Right? It really is. If you can love the inner child within you without resisting that, then you start to love the duality and complexity of you. You do. Like, we're complex beings. That's the one thing I always take away when I was doing ethnography, and now and really this Queering Chaos project is my coming back to ethnography once again. I love it. I really do love telling people, hearing people's stories, collecting folk stories, having stories, telling folks, bringing folks together to tell stories together, right? It's how we conjure. I do believe in conjure, always have. And so you have to, they'll be intentional about this, right? When we allow ourselves, right, to understand that humans are complex and we give that ourselves that complexity, when we love our inner child, we start to love our inner complexity. And that inner complexity then gives us a much stronger foundation of what we consider ethical or not. It's a more honest ethical. It's a more honest foundation of what you will and won't tolerate, because you do understand complexity, because you make complexity part of your humanity. So if that is what is defining the human and humanity for you and y'all's, right, in the society itself, fuck a tolerance, you understand difference foundationally. If we understand difference foundationally, then differences won't be the thing that is the first reaction to why you want to take from somebody or kill somebody else, right? There has to be then a cause, a trigger for then violence outside of a rudimental and superficial understanding of difference being bad. You see what I'm saying, y'all? So I love that, Quinn. Yes, loving the child within and without resistance, because that allows you to love the complexity. And again, that's a truth. Because when you can get truthful about what you will and won't allow, because you understand that you yourself and all of us are going to be contradictory, well, then you take responsibility. Saturn here, you take responsibility for the structures of the culture that you are a part of, the traditions that you will then pass on, that you will then double down on, because you understand and you believe in the power of that. That is then how you show love. And then that love means that when those structures don't make any sense anymore, Saturn again being gaseous, being something that is not solid, having multiple rings, again, multiple realities, you understand love is understanding that sometimes things must change, and change is hard. So understanding that our relationship to change is also being shown to us at this crossroad, and how much we say we want these kind of new worlds, a whole new world, but don't want to have no change. That shit don't make no sense. Those two things are contradictory, right? But contradictory in a way that means that there's no decision being made. No decision being made means that things stay the exact same as they are. So yes, Quinn, I love that. Love the child within without resisting, because then we can get to some goddamn truths about what we do believe in and what we don't tolerate. Right? That's the kind of full moon in Gemini, the belief systems we have, the facts of the matter. But whose facts are we buying, believing in? Right? Whose truths are we allowing to lead us? So this week, we're going to have some emotions. This week, we're going to be asked to sit in the water, sit in the emotions, become the containers. Because who is going to be the new authority? Saturn is going to be moving direct. Saturn is authority. The old crone, the old mother is tired of this shit. Who's going to lead? Right? Who's going to lead and why? And I said this, I think I said this last week, but again, I've been working with a lot of clients, and I'm open for folks for next year. If you're interested in doing more consulting work with me, please reach out. But some of the, like, I'm working with folks now, and there's a way that we say we want these kind of flattened systems of governance because it sounds good, right? No one head. We don't want a top down kind of structure. Okay, fine. Saturn retrograding in Pisces with the collective. Let's review and reflect upon the kind of structures we already have, because Saturn does rule structure. Putting on the cloak of Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn is the bones, is the structure of things, is governance itself. But Jupiter rules law and order, right? So we're being asked to review these things, law and orders, and the structures of ourselves. And if we're saying that we don't want law and order in this top-down way, okay, well then what is the responsibility then the collective must take to make governance be collective? Saturn's now going to go to direct in Pisces before she goes to Aries. So now we're going to have to test these things, right? So now we've got someone like a Madami out in New York who's the mayor. And there's all kinds of things going on about him and Trump and this whole weird, that whole weird ass meeting, right? That's weird, but not weird if you understand that Trump is living in a reality show because he still does believe he's a reality star, right? Think about this. Trump is a con man, but he is also literally a showman. The two go hand in hand. That, and if he really is having kind of cognitive kind of degeneration, that man probably still thinks he's living in a fucking reality show, right? He is a reality show, right? So he now he's in his own reality show, and you've just got this, conventionally attractive politician who just was an underdog who beat out, all of these established kind of established candidates from both sides, and now he is in the White House standing next to Trump. Like, this is a wet dream for Trump, right? I had to talk to my roommates about this. I was like, what the hell? And we working it out. It's like, this is his reality show, right? This is exactly who he is. So, okay, governing structures, go back to that. We're seeing all of this. We are seeing the reality show we are in. We are seeing the reality show we are in, and we are seeing the power of the imagination of bringing somebody else's kind of reality into fruition. Trump conjured this, right? If you think about it that way too. That's the power of the fucking imagination in the story. So what power do we then take back? If we say we want these structures of governance and societies that are more flattened, that are more council-based, that are more matriarchal-based, that are more human-based, however we want to say that, okay? Then that means that we are saying that we are all grown up. Saturn's about getting grown at the crone, that we have grown up and understand that that requires a responsibility. Right? It requires a responsibility of everybody, understanding that we do have to all show up in one way, shape, or form. That we all do have to have an intention of bringing our energies into these spaces. That no, you can't just go into a space and because you think you paid some money that is all the exchange is needed. And so you want somebody to give to you, but you give nothing back. That's not actually shared governance at the foundational level. Right? So if we are saying we want to grow up as a society and have these different systems of care that will allow us to have different systems then of commerce, which then will allow us different systems of governance. All these systems are connected, y'all. Economic, social, political. Well, then Saturn's saying, baby, well, we're going to grow up now. We reflected and reviewed. Have you seen this? What happens when you give it up? Well, yes, this is what happens when you give it up to one party, one body, one entity, one concept, one ideology. So again, if we want to flip the script and do a whole new tradition, there is a reflection and review, but also a responsibility we have to take. It's time to grow up. Right? It's time to grow up. And here goes Mercury going back. That's some hard truths. Mercury's like, listen, all I do is deliver the damn messages. Y'all got to do what you're going to do. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep flowing. I'm going to flow into Sagittarius. And I'm now going to ask and go into fire. We're in the deep waters, but now we're moving into some fire. Now it's action time. What are we going to transmute? What are we going to make tangible? What is now the new truths? What are the new beliefs that we're coming into? Right? So being and learning through neighboring outside of hierarchy and authority. Yeah, and I think I've heard of that term. Dean, I can't pronounce it, so that's why I'm not saying it. I don't want to mess up people's languages. Yes, and I think that's part of the conversation we're having. Neighboring. What does it mean to be a neighbor? What does it mean to be a neighbor, right? We're having to redefine all of these foundational things because that's what allows us to maintain authority, to understand that, again, Chiron and Aries, that is retrograde, hitting Jupiter's retrograde and Cancer. If we understand that there's been a wounding of us understanding that we can have our own authority because we have not given children agency. Let's go back to what Quinn said, loving the child within and without resistance, right? Once we give children their humanhood, their personhood, it allows us then to redefine and understand how to take back our authority in own heads so that we can then create selves who then understand what it means to be in communities, to understand what a neighboring is, right? This, again, is all connected here. So what's emerged from the deepness, right? What kind of, and some of y'all might have even had family secrets emerge, right? This stuff should get real literal. Okay, so now we're going from fixed energy into mutable energy. So things are changing. And again, if you are in the Chicago area, I will be having my next stream kind of containers. So I'm doing these small containers, these intimate salon conversations as a way to create these spaces for folks to not just dream, but also to have spaces to test out truth and vulnerability. We have to be able to test it out, right? We can again say one thing, but it's doing a next. So my first salon conversation will be December 4th in Chicago from 7 to 9. I'll have information in the show notes. And there will be, it'll be a small group of no more than 15 queer folks. And we're going to talk about what it means to queer spirit by going on a journey to self. So I'm going to be working with music and having prompts. There'll be light snacks and beverages, and it'll just be a space that we can start to really conjure together in a small setting. And then the next Queering Chaos conversation is going to be December 16th at Dorothy Downstairs, in which we're going to be queering pleasure, play, and taboo things. All right. Now, if you want to still learn with me how I look at the stars, planets, and zodiacs, I'm having my third 100 class this December 4th, Astrology 102. And that's going to be going over the houses. So I'm going to break down the houses. That's the where of the chart. So where things are happening. So today when I was talking about look at the houses that are ruled by water and look at your Virgo house, so I'll be talking about the houses themselves. So if you want to learn more with me about that, check out Astrology 102 houses under Big Liz Conjure. Again, I'll have that in the show notes. And finally, y'all, talking about ease. I talked about that at the very beginning and how I need to figure out what ease looks like for me. I'm gonna be taking some time off in the coming weeks, as I've got a lot of ideas. I had a lot of ideas that I'm excited about and that I want to start to lay out for next year. And for me, the next year doesn't start until the spring equinox in March, because winter is a time for germination. So I will be slowly winding down as the year ends. I'm going to be taking most of January off. So in preparation for that, I am revamping my astrology offerings for next year. And so in order to kind of sunset the readings I have a special. So if you've been interested in a one-on-one reading with me in the offerings that I have right now, I'm giving 30% off all my readings that I have listed. Just use the code HOLIDAY. So the readings that I have up right now, holiday will get you 30% off until the end of the year, because at the end of the year, I will be sunsetting these readings and revamping my astrology offerings for next year. Because I've learned a lot this year with the astrology readings I've been given. I've really enjoyed them and loved them. And I've learned a lot about what I like to do as an astrologer with folks. So the offerings that I have thinking about for next year will be fun ones, all right? And also get into different kind of facets of both the human and spirit, okay, with working with astrology and storytelling. So I think that's all I got for y'all now, okay? Keep storytelling with yourselves, all right? Let the memories come up. Let the emotions flow through. Let the truth sit next to you. And if you believe the truth that comes up to you without judgment, without trying to put shame upon yourself, even if it seems really taboo, what if that taboo was actually saying, baby, this is part of you? So why do you think part of you is somehow taboo? Who told you that, and is that true? Allow the truths to sit next to you so that you can start to break through and break free, right, of the constructions placed upon you to come to the self. This is the story the cosmos is saying and giving us permission to do. So next week, we'll continue this story, all right? So keep dreaming, keep exploring, because it's through the dreamscapes that we can bring the future that we want to bring into the present. All right, y'all, till next time. I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. Like Michelle sang, the cosmos, where we come from. that lit the way for our ancestors in the dark of night, when they had to leave the spaces that tried to steal their breath and life, reworking while also learning how to work with the land that was also being worked, a land and people under duress. The trees did not ask if they wanted to participate in such brutal practices. Yet here they were. Here we are. All beholden to a power structure that only knows how to take and never to give, while telling us this is the right way to live. So I don't want to be right. I just want to be free. As Michelle sang, the cosmos. The cosmos. We'll learn to imagine that freedom lied in parable of the sower that sowed the seeds of Earth's seed that wanted to bring humans back to the stars, to start again, to start anew. Remember where we come from and who we are. The stars that lit the way, that guide the light. The moon that holds the tides of the waters. Our connection to earth and land. As above, so below. Yet we don't know, because we have lost the above and the below. So I don't want to be right. I just want to be free and journey to the cosmos.